Welcome to Fresh Off the Boat. This is my endeavor during the COVID era to connect with the students in college and hear from them, their lives, and also find nuggets of wisdom to share with students back home in India. So, welcoming Kanishk Vashisht. He's a senior at Columbia University, but technically you should be graduating by now, right? All the graduation
Yeah.
ceremonies and the robes and everything else should be out. So how's it been for you? Like very surreal sort of and disappointing graduation season.
Yeah, so we did graduate actually yesterday. We had our commencement. It is pretty surreal to see it all done on Zoom, do it online, sitting at home in front of TVs and not with friends and family outdoors, having fun. But at the same time, a lot of colleges, including Columbia, have committed to an in-person ceremony by the end of this year when things calm down. So, looking forward to that, but at the same time, just happy that we had something and we weren't all just in down spirits because of coronavirus.
Yeah. Okay, so Ganesh, remembering your high school years in Sriram, I know you were always into the computer science and member of societies and going for competitions and this and that. And then going to Columbia, which is in New York, a very fast-paced city. Of course, there are interesting opportunities, many new startups in the tech world, established players. How was it transitioning from a pace of a suburban India to a big city and then adjusting first few months in, say, Colombia and then later on, how did it all pan out?
Yeah, I mean, it hits you like a train. You're going from living life like a day at a time to like something different happening every minute. Um, the first few months are definitely hard. It helps that Columbia kind of has its own campus, which is in the city but still secluded. Once you're in those gates on 114th and Broadway, it's a very different experience. People are just out on the lawns enjoying the day. We have a good kind of campus vibe. So it helps that, when you want to engage with the fast paced city, when you want to engage with speakers, stuff like that, they're right there. They're like at like a 10-minute subway ride. But when you want to just take it easy and, the pace is a lot for you, then you can just come and chill out on campus. And it's kind of similar to being in Gurgaon and then commuting to Delhi pretty often. Delhi's much more kind of high paced than Gurgaon is. So it was familiar but different at the same time.
And what about your pre-professional sort of training in school? Did it help you when you chose CS as a major and opportunities like internships or even projects in college? Tell us a little bit about the journey and what all did
Yeah,
you learn?
definitely. So speaking of my pre-professional journey in school, I think the thing that stands out the most was something I chose to do as a senior in high school was host like an all India wide hackathon with about 600, 700 people from across the country. We flew them to Bangalore, had like 50 companies sponsor us. It was a great endeavor. And I remember when I got my acceptance letter, there was a little note on the side from the AdCom which said that she was the chair of Columbia's hackathon when she was an undergraduate herself, and it was something that spoke to her a lot. And kind of translating from there, like just being a part of computer science societies, being a part of like the famous quizzing circuit in India, I made a lot of friends who stuck with me through to college. This helped a lot actually while looking for internships because we could all share knowledge with each other. And I would say just generally building things because you're interested in them always shows recruiters or other entrepreneurs that you're someone who has kind of a get shit done attitude and just gets things done. So it definitely helps. It definitely helps that I was passionate about it.
Super. So I think that definitely be useful to see that how taking initiative in school gets recognized in college, and I'm sure kids who are listening, who are high schoolers, will benefit from this tip. But more about your like internships and your the thing about finding a skip in your step to do something new with CS and looking out for opportunities. How did the Columbia experience help you with all of that? Were there resources
Yeah,
available?
of course. So at two levels, the first level is tactical. There's a lot of resources at Columbia. You have um, ton of venture funding programs. Something I did actually was I started and exited a startup in my first 3 years of Columbia with some of my best friends from Delhi. We studied computer science together for a year. We were like, studying is fun, but it's time to go and do something. and we wanted to build like this logistics company. There was a ton of mentors at Columbia, seniors who were like Forbes 30 under 30, people who were like Obama scholars. Columbia has funding programs. We raised something to the tune of like $80,000 in non-equity funding from Columbia.
Wow.
And just competitions and stuff. And beyond the money, we met with Dean Valentini, who is the dean of Columbia College, pretty often. President Bollinger was an advisor, and there's a big community and there's a lot of support. So that's at the tactical level. There's a ton of resources. The city is rife with people who will be customers to your startup, with people who will talk to you, meet with you. The number of times that I've just emailed someone and been like, can we catch up for 20, 25 minutes over a coffee is super high. And that's at the tactical level, but at a deeper level, it's almost as though you have kind of this intellectual playground, which is university, but it's so deeply connected to a city which is at the heart of worldwide events that you get an intellectual perspective on what's going on in the world. So a lot of colleges will have conferences on very esoteric topics like some really complicated math equation or some research paper that won't mean anything for 40 years. But a lot of our conferences are like, okay, machine learning is coming for the business world. How are we as technologists going to use it? Or we frequently have like Indian politicians or global politicians come and tell us problems that exist in their countries. You get to sit and chat with like the Prime Minister of Finland over lunch about what's going on, how they're dealing with their recent market shocks. So at both levels, you're taught to think, and then you're given resources to help your thought process become either companies, research, whatever you want.
Right. So I think this is interesting because when I travel and I meet students in different campuses, on different campuses, and also especially the newer buildings are the computer science buildings and the resources and all of that. Fascinating in terms of seeing the stark difference in terms of money being spent for computer science. Is the Columbia computer science department also special? You feel a little bit more privileged than the rest?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you certainly do because a lot of computer science concepts were invented at Columbia. You walk into a building to learn about support vector machines, where support vector machines were discovered, or you're walking on top of what was a nuclear reactor like 30 years ago, and the home of the Manhattan Project, which is one of the most computationally intensive projects in the world. So you always feel like you're in a very special place. You always kind of feel overwhelmed. As an Indian, definitely even more because a lot of professors are kind of Indian. The founder of Cricinfo is a professor at Columbia who I've taken a few classes with, and a lot of common ground. So yeah, you feel overwhelmed and you feel like you're part of something way bigger than yourself and way bigger than anything else you've ever been a part of.
Right. Now switching gears about talking about high schoolers who are interested in tech.
Let's do it.
What about when you look back at your high school journey? I know the hackathon and the interest in CS in general was obviously useful, but the world moves on. There's so much new tech happening all the time. What can high schoolers do as a plan? Like, if you were to pick three things they definitely do to build their skills, what would they be?
Yeah, I mean, number one, stop thinking, start doing. Like, find a problem and solve it. I think that was the single biggest differentiator between me and a lot of people who applied. I wasn't trying to study every single topic that existed under the sun and then kind of prove that I was competent by writing blog posts. I saw a problem. The particular problem that I saw was that I had a friend whose grandmother was visually impaired. So me and a couple of my friends got together and we built like this cap with kind of ultrasonic range sensors to help her navigate indoor environments. That's the first thing I'd say. Start building things. Second, get other people and invest in your success. So find people who are seniors who already are going to great colleges. Reach out to me. I'm sure Arjun can provide my email address to you. And talk to us about your projects. I'm always excited to hear about what other people are working on, and I'm 100% sure that I can, you know, help you present that in a good way. And I think that's the third thing. You've done a lot of stuff. Why let presentation be where you fail? It's so many people who are so incredibly smart will write like kind of half-assed essays or not go the extra mile. A lot of universities will be like, okay, don't send us extra information, just fill up the common app. And a lot of people will be like, okay, done, fill out the common app. But there's no harm in making a pamphlet, making a little book of all the things you've made, and just sending it to the admissions office with your, your application number written on it. Worst case, they throw it away. Best case, the right admissions counselor sees it, and you're in because you went the extra mile. You just showed that you're a go-getter. So those are the three things: show up, show out, and get other people interested.
That's super. I think pretty much life skills, even career skills, the same thing applies when you're in college. So, fantastic tips for everyone who's listening. Clearly, there's been a journey, and the different internships and all the other little things you might have done at Columbia or otherwise at work. What do you think are your three biggest strengths? If you were to describe them in adjectives, I'm doing this three thing as a rapid fire.
About me, or
Yeah.
just about
No,
me?
no, about you. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say go-getter, biggest one. Shameless. I would email anyone and everyone. I would text you 5 times if I need something from you. And hardworking. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. Just sit down and do the work. Has always kind of been my motto.
Okay, and given that the world is so uncertain at this point, how are you charting your course? I know on your LinkedIn profile it says you had an internship. What is the current status and what are you working on?
Yeah, so last summer I was part of a fellowship program called the Kleiner Perkins Fellowship Program. Something like 50 fellows every year. It's a great community. Through that community, I met a lot of very interesting venture capitalists and other entrepreneurs. And I ended up joining a startup it's called Agora, where a venture-backed company, I think we were ranked the third or something best place in San Francisco or like the third most innovative company or something like that. Our founders are Forbes 30 under 30. So I'm super excited to learn from these very intelligent people. And I think
What does Agora do?
so where we basically take a construction company, someone who does contracting, actually goes and builds stuff, and we help them build it better. We help them get materials faster. We help them get materials to the right place at the right time, source them at a cheaper price, and a bunch of other stuff like that. We like to call ourselves kind of the company that will help you take complete ownership of your supply chain.
Sure, that's great. I think having those in-depth sort of knowledge of a particular industry, say in this case, construction, and then building a product around that will obviously be a lot more viable in the future because then you're a specialist in one industry. So that's great. And your role would be like some sort of helping the product manager, or what exactly would you be doing?
Yeah, so I'm a software engineer. And we don't really have we're only 8 people at the time, and we don't have bigger distinctions than that. I think I'm more, I would say, focused on the data side. A lot of what I studied in college was related to machine learning, artificial intelligence. That is my area of expertise, or limited expertise, in computer science. And yeah, I mean that's my role.
Super. Okay, now just gonna talk about some message that you want to give to say high schoolers who are kind of struggling with the situation and grappling with understanding how this new world is going to look like post-COVID, also where social distancing and is going to be a norm for some more time. Gatherings will be restricted. Schools might not open for even 1 or 2 semesters. How does one deal with uncertainty at a young age in high school?
Yeah, I mean, so there's two questions there. One is how does one deal with uncertainty, and the second is what you should be doing right now. Well, the good thing about being young is that you can offload your attention on other people. So, your parents will take care of it. Arjun will take care of it. Focus on your work, and focus on being the best version of yourself. Go deep on like any two or three things that you find interesting, like, and no one will be able to compete with you. Something that I've seen a lot of people do that is a really bad habit is that they try to be like this, like best at one thing. They want to be the best like mathematician, or they want to be the best computer scientist. But if you find two or three things and you're on the top like 90% in those two or three things, there's no one that can compete with you. You're an expert, right? So that's the second point. What should you be doing right now? If you had asked me what is the one thing that you wanted more of as a high school student, I would have said more time. I tried to miss school as much as I could so I could stay at home, write essays, work on side projects, study for the APs, the SATs, other competitive exams like that. So do that. I mean, schools aren't open, social distancing, you're not going out to parties, you're not going for movies with your friends. take this time, make the best of it, forget the tension. The world will figure itself out, and it doesn't need the class of 2025 or 2026 or whatever you are to rescue it. There's enough people working on coronavirus. Work on yourself.
Yeah, that sounds super great. Smart advice, I would say. Uh, but what do you think education is going to reinvent? Do you see that colleges are already thinking of new things? What is Columbia, or what's the message that you are sensing will become an announcement very soon?
So
How
yeah,
will
I mean,
education change?
colleges, yeah, education will change. There's no doubt about that. I think there's going to be two levels of changes. In the short term, we're not going to see students returning to campuses for a while for many reasons. One, colleges are the perfect breeding ground for like any kind of disease because you have people coming from all over the world. And so there's going to be like, online classes, maybe where Columbia has this idea where they're trying to break up the next 2 semesters into trimesters and assign students any two of three so that they can have some less density, more social distancing on campuses. I think that's going to be there for like the next year or year and a half. I mean, colleges haven't spent upwards of $10 billion each building these buildings and research labs to not fill them with people. So in the long run, people are definitely going to return to campus. I think the bigger thing is going to be we're going to leave the world of colleges only teaching you theory and a lot of biology, computer science classes, STEM classes, even humanities classes. Columbia's core is super famous and born out of such a desperate situation. It was born out of the disaster and the vicissitudes of World War One. So I think there's going to be a bigger focus on teaching people how to think about events that are happening, not just reading books and quizzing rote knowledge across the board. All colleges are going to be thinking of, how can we link um, our teaching and our pedagogy to help students be effective in the next world crisis, whatever it is, economic, biological. So yeah, I think those are the two changes. One, for the next year, don't hope that students are going to return to campus. It is the most unlikely thing. I can promise you it won't happen at a government level and a college level. The liability is too high. And the second is, I think education is going to become much more about how we can apply the things we're learning and not just kind of rote learning.
Yeah, great. So I think with that, we'd want to sort of wrap it up. And
Right.
thank you so much, Ganesh. This has been a fascinating, fast-paced chat, kind of taking me back 4 to 5 years in sort of looking at your journey. So we'll be in touch. We'll also invite you for a webinar with maybe two other people on a panel to discuss on various topics. You seem to be a renaissance person who'd be interesting and exciting in a conversation with in a group as well. So let's have some of social online activities organized soon and catch you in a better time very soon. And enjoy the rest of your time of connections with friends who are all over the world who've graduated with you. And I hope that in-person graduation ceremony does become a reality for all of you. Thanks again. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.